170 of my flyers.
Wow. Did you pay for all those flyers yourself?
Oh, $32.
Really?
Save our roads. Vote no on roads budget. Article 6. Gurney Hill, Taylor Hill, cut to 0. High Street, cut 72%. And I got the numbers on here, too. But
Yeah. When did you send those out?
I went door to door over the last 4 days.
Oh, so you didn't mail them, you just dropped them off in people's mailboxes?
I didn't drop any in mailboxes. I rang their doorbell, and if they didn't answer, I left it on their doorstep. You can't put them in mailboxes.
Gotcha. Interesting. So, what do you think the turnout's going to be for tomorrow's vote?
Oh, I don't know. I think the no votes are going to win 2-1.
No votes will win 2-1. Don't you think that might put the town in a big dilemma?
Well, they set themselves up for the dilemma. I offered the idea of a town meeting with 50 in the gym and 50 in a remote location and then 50 in another remote location, and they voted that down. I said, let's have a separate warrant. They wouldn't extend the deadline, which was 60 days before the town meeting, to submit a warrant. They wouldn't let me submit an amendment, and they converted the vote the budget committee made against the roads budget. Instead of saying it was 7-0 like they show in the past, and that a unanimous decision, they just said budget committee voted against. The deck has been stacked against me from the beginning, and I'm going to take these guys down.
Who are these guys that you're referring to?
Well, Monroe, Samantha Mink, and Brian Powers. It's the cabal.
Well, I'm not sure anyone's really not necessarily against you. Here's how I see it, Bruce. I think you've got a lot of energy. I think you've done a good job, like researching and putting time into it. But I also think there's a lot of things missing and lacking.
Let me tell you a quick story. Jake Eason left in 3 years ago, $16,000 cheaper than Foley. Jake had no experience, no trucks, no drivers, no garage, and John Monroe said, let's go with Jake. That's going to be an employee and a road. And the town said, yeah, we'll save $16,000, let's do it. And dropped it out for a while. I heard there were a number of accidents in the first storm up by Ludwig, talking to guys on Ludwig, the first year he did it.
Yeah.
This time, I say we can do it for $100,000. Bennington's $195,000. Monroe doesn't want to go with the town, which has no trucks, no drivers, no experience, and no garage, to save $95,000. Why is that?
Yeah, but Bruce, you're opening up a can of worms. You're putting the cart before the horse here. You've got an elected road commissioner, which in the town of Hope, if you're going to change anything, the first thing you would have to do is you'd have to change that. You can't just open up a public works department for snow removal and not have all your ducks in a row. You're jumping the gun.
The contract is out. Interest rates are low. Trucks are cheap.
It doesn't.
The alternative is $1 million 5-year contract.
Bruce, it's Bruce.
$500,000 more than it should.
Bruce, it doesn't.
So maybe we don't have all our ducks in a row. Are you going to put all your ducks in a row for $500,000? Is that going to make you feel better?
Bruce.
Do you want to write that check, or is it other people's money?
Bruce, it's still a political process you got to go through.
Okay, we'll do it. We'll go through it.
I know, but you can't just go through it overnight and expect it's going to be done by October of this year.
These guys that got in my way intended for it to be a scramble. That was their doing.
No, it wasn't.
We had a decision on July 14th, but we won't talk about conflict of interest. He is the one who has the conflict. Within that budget of $528,000 is $33,000 for John Monroe's equipment.
Bruce, the town, you're talking about one person here, and I don't think you know the whole history of how the town's been run for years. The road commission.
I heard a lot of history in the last 4 days.
I know, but Bruce, the road commissioner has done a lot of the town's work, whether it's been John Monroe or Alex Ludwig, for decades.
Yeah, well,
So,
I'm intent on changing that. I think our road commissioner should be a manager, engineer, thinker type guy, and then he puts that work out for others to do.
so the first thing,
That's what I think.
right? So Bruce, I understand what you're saying. We tried to do that when we were on select board when I was on there. But the issue is, though, in order to do that, the first thing you need to do is you need to change the road commissioner position from elected to appointed. Otherwise, Bruce, you can't elect a road commissioner and then not pay him more than just a stipend to be somebody who you're going to use for
$1,500, he
such.
can go sit in the corner for all I care.
But you're missing the whole point. That's my point. The road commissioner isn't going to want to be in an elected position and only get an $1,800 stipend and be there to manage contractors, do recommendations, put out bids. That's not going to cover anyone's labor costs, Bruce, to do that.
Okay, well, maybe he resigns. Maybe we pay somebody what it's really worth, like maybe $5,000 or maybe it's even $10,000 instead of whatever it is, and we get real work from a person who's qualified to spec out jobs, which is not what we have now. We have John Monroe decide what he wants to do. He does it. He sends us a book.
Yep. There's no road commissioner in this area that is qualified to do what you're asking to do.
They do it Rockport.
No, they don't, Bruce. No, they don't.
Your ex-boss tells me they do.
Bruce.
So we can disagree on that. Let me tell you.
There's not, Bruce. No. Hold on a second, Bruce. Don't be throwing stuff in my face and don't give me a chance to explain it, because the town of Rockport has a public works director that is a full-time paid position. And when they have jobs that require it, they hire an engineering firm called Gartley and Dorsey to do the engineering work. There's no town in this area that does road commissioner work and engineered projects without an engineer that designs the projects. You can't get away with that.
When they do a culvert, that there are established specs, and they don't need to call some guy in to do a new culvert. They're in the book. Say, hey, here are the specs to do a culvert. Here are the specs to do edging on a 2-lane road. Here are the specs to do ditching. We don't have any of that. We got nothing.
Oh my God, Bruce, you're not even comparing apples to apples anyway. And if you're listening to Tom Farley, he's coming from 5 different towns and trying to give you everything in one mouthful. You're not comparing Rockport to the town of Hope is not even comparing apples to apples.
Okay, so it's going to cost us more to put stuff out to bid than it is to have John Monroe do it. Is that right or wrong?
Oh, absolutely it is.
Okay, well, let's find out.
There's nothing to find out. That's the problem, Bruce. So you keep throwing numbers at everything, but you don't have anything to back up your numbers. It's just like when you...
Okay, well, let me tell you about something that I do have to back up my numbers. Do you know the town of Washington?
Bruce.
Hey, listen to me.
No.
I'm going to give you some facts.
No, Bruce, but...
You know the town of Washington, yes or no?
Bruce.
We're done. If you're not going to listen to the story, we are done.
Bruce, I think you need to relax.
Talk to me, yes or no? Are you going to listen to my story or not?
Well, can we have a conversation here? Why has it got to be so one-sided?
You just challenged me.
I didn't challenge you on anything. The fact, Bruce, the fact is, though, is every time you presented your numbers were different every time. So it's hard.
I change my numbers. Every time I change my numbers. Let me tell you some numbers that are fixed in stone, all right?
Well, Bruce, if you're going to try to win people onto your side, you've got to start presenting your numbers that are factual and include everything. To be a...
Let me give you some numbers that include everything, all right?
Bruce, to be a select board member, and then at the last minute, go...